Start the song.
Indian fever, it's catching fire with everyone. Indian fever, you can be part of the fun. You're the winner at every game, that's where the excitement begins. So catch Indian fever, be a believer with the Cleveland Indians.
Hello and welcome everyone to the November 12th. It's November 12th today. 2018 Lake County Sentinel Podcast. It was an exciting weekend in Cleveland sports as the Browns picked up a win. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But we have a special guest tonight, Phillip Goth. He will be discussing the Monsters with us later in the show, and I might ask his opinion on some other things too as we go. But let's get started right off the bat. We have some Lake County news in sports. We have the Lake Erie College Storm announced on Saturday that their head football coach, Gerald Hazzard, who has been with the team as the team's head coach for 2 seasons. He was 2-24. He served for 2 games as an interim head coach in 2016, and then he was the full-time coach in 17 and 18, and he has been relieved of his duties. And they will immediately start searching for a new head coach. The program at Lake Erie has never lived up to the hype, I guess you could say, that it came in with when they started the program all the years, more than a decade ago now. It just has never gotten any traction, and they've struggled, and they need to find a head coach, and they need to be able to recruit a little better. They need to get more local kids, I think, to go to that school. You see like 5 kids from this area, from Northeast Ohio, on the roster every year. Northeast Ohio is a hotbed for high school football talent. You can't tell me that you can't get kids to go to a Division II school. I know a lot of kids that went Division III because they weren't recruited at all by Lake Erie College. The kids that could have played at Lake Erie College. Believe me, I've seen Lake Erie College play over the years, and trust me, some of these kids that left could definitely play at Lake Erie College. I mean, I've seen some of the worst football of my life at Lake Erie College. I mean, the offense used to be good, and then now it's horrible. Special teams is horrible. The defense is horrible. Giving up 50 points a game is no big deal. And scoring is a big deal because they rarely score. So hopefully they get things going there. Athletic director Kelly Kish, who's made some interesting moves, needless to say, in the last year since she took over as athletic director. I'm not sure if she's going to be in charge of searching for the new head coach. She put out the statement when they fired Hazzard. I don't know if she's going to be in charge or if the president of the college will be in charge, but hopefully it's the president of the college that's in charge and they find a good head coach because, Lake Erie College is a really great place. I've covered a lot of games there throughout the years, and I really enjoyed it a lot. It's a really nice campus. A lot of really nice kids go there, and it would be really nice to see their football program do well because they draw pretty good crowds for their games, and it would be nice if the people who've been loyal to the program, fans and alumni, would, get to see some winning. That would be a really nice thing. So let's move on. We'll move on to the Mentor Icebreakers. I always want to call them Lake County, but they're the Mentor Icebreakers. They are still winless. They lost over the weekend again. They lost both games. They lost to the Watertown Wolves on Friday, 7-4, and then on Saturday, 7-3. And so they're still winless, searching for their first win. And then this week they go on the road. Friday at 7 and then Saturday at 6, they'll play in Port Huron against the Port Huron Prowlers. I like that name.
Interesting.
That's a good name.
Yes, very.
That's a good name. Their logo is really good too. You gotta. Hey, there's something to be said for a good nickname.
Oh yeah, I totally.
There
agree.
really is.
Totally agree.
So that's what's going on with the Icebreakers. Hopefully they can get something going, and get a win. Excuse me. We'll go on to the Cavs now. The Cavs, they nearly pulled out a victory on Saturday. They were down quite a bit after the first period. Then they came back. They were actually leading for a lot of the game. They lost 99-98. And, like a lot of young teams, they just couldn't finish it off. So they get another shot tomorrow at home against the Charlotte Hornets. And it's funny is the whole time when the Charlotte Bobcats came in the league, I wanted to call them the Charlotte Hornets. And now that they're the Charlotte Hornets again, I want to call them the Charlotte Bobcats.
That's interesting.
It's ridiculous.
That's weird.
It's crazy how the mind works.
Oh yeah.
But they play the Charlotte Hornets tomorrow at 7 o'clock at the Q. They'll be in the new uniforms, which I like.
They're different.
Yes. It's funny is I never knew that the logo on there was a Lake Erie wave. That's what that was supposed. That is.
Really? I didn't know that.
Never knew it. It's the power of Lake Erie.
Interesting.
Yeah, I heard that the other day. I
That's
was
cool.
like, wow, that's pretty neat.
Good story behind that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So that was in 1994 when they moved to the then Gund Arena from the Richfield Coliseum. They changed uniforms. And these uniforms are better than those. Those I didn't like a lot because they had the logo was a basketball.
That's boring.
Really?
That's really boring.
I mean, it was boring. So these uniforms are better. And they're debuting the new Florida model, which is very nice. It's those colors.
Okay.
It looks and it just says Cleveland in the center. Okay. The script Cleveland, like the signs.
Yeah.
It looks really good.
Oh, that's cool.
I like that. They're shorthanded right now, so it's going to be tough for them to win. And even when they have everybody, it's going to be tough for them to win because they're so young. Mm-hmm. But and then after tomorrow night, then they go to Washington and play the Wizards at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. So these aren't two easy games. I believe Charlotte's one of the better teams in the East now, I think. And Washington, even though their record's not good, the Cavs always struggle against them. So hopefully the Cavs will get a win this week. And I think it's going to be a long year, but I think in the long run, it's going to be worth it. So, because they're probably going to get one of those 3 Duke players in the draft, and that's really going to, that's going to be a good thing. So, and then we might as well move on to the Browns here. They beat the Falcons. You have to give them credit. I mean, that's a good win. That's a really good win. There were a lot of upsets yesterday in the NFL. So it wasn't like, they were the only team to upset somebody. The Bills destroyed the Jets. The Bills have looked absolutely disgusting. And they just took the Jets apart like they were nothing. I would have to say that Todd Bowles is really lucky he still has his job. And, and then the Titans beat the Patriots pretty easy. So there were a few upsets yesterday in the NFL. But the Browns, you have to give them credit. They didn't make the mistakes offensively that they had made in the past. They were able to hold on, and they got the win. I thought for sure when there was like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, I'm like, they're going to blow this game.
Yeah,
but they didn't blow it. They did what they had to do, and they got the win, and it was impressive. Matt Ryan is Matt Ryan. I've never been a Matt Ryan fan. You can get to him. People want to compare Matt Ryan to the great quarterbacks in the NFL. And I said this on Thursday and Friday on the podcast. Matt Ryan, what separates Matt Ryan from Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and those guys is that if you hit Matt Ryan early in the game, Matt Ryan gets affected. and he won't be as good. And I think that's what happened yesterday. So, it was a good win. Let's not put him in the Super Bowl yet. I think a lot of people are, they just go overboard. You get one win. But it's a good win to build on. And Baker Mayfield's the real deal. I was wrong about him. I'll say it again. He is nothing like Johnny Manziel. He actually works hard, unlike Johnny Manziel, who never worked. I heard an interesting Jamarcus Russell story recently. Phil, you know who Jamarcus Russell is?
Wasn't he the quarterback that went first overall?
Yes, to the Raiders.
Yeah.
But he was lazy.
Yes.
I heard this story recently that when he was with the Raiders in his rookie season, the coaches didn't think that he was studying game film.
Really?
So they gave him a cassette to study the team they were playing's defense. They wanted him to study it over the weekend. And he came back the next Monday, and they asked him if he watched it. And he said, yeah, I understand all their schemes now and everything. And, well, he answered their question. He really wasn't watching the game film because they gave him a blank tape.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
So, and he had so much talent, but he was just lazy. He gained all kinds of weight. By the time they released him, he was fat. I remember. It was a shame because he was really good at LSU. But you kind of knew, and the Raiders picked him, and it didn't work out for them. But I guess I'm glad for Browns fans because Baker Mayfield isn't an idiot after what happened with Johnny Manziel.
Yes.
How all the fans bought in.
Yeah.
And then he just
nothing.
I mean, he was what I thought he was.
Yeah.
I remember on draft night saying that he will go down in flames.
Yeah.
And everybody was mad at me, and but
and look who was right in the end.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can tell. Some guys you can just tell.
100%.
But and the last thing before we get to the monsters, the last thing is it's personal with me. Is the disaster in Tampa where they gained 501 yards on offense. The only team in NFL history to gain 501 yards offensively and to score 3 points. 3 points. The sad part about this whole thing is their defense finally played well. They gave up 16 points. They only gave up 286 yards offensively. Wow. They've been giving up 400 yards every week. And they finally had a good game defensively, and the offense was horrible. Well, they cut their kicker today because he missed two field goals yesterday.
Didn't he miss a couple?
He missed an extra point against the Browns.
And then game winner, right?
And he missed an extra point a couple weeks ago that cost him a game. Yeah. So he's gone now. Nice. But they haven't had a good kicker since they drafted a kicker in the second round. Yeah, that was about the dumbest thing. Any team that drafts a kicker in the second round.
Florida State guy.
Oh yeah. He's bad. And then his brother kicks for Florida State now, and he's like even worse. So,
third round pick right
there. I'm sure they're nice people, but not very good kickers. So I think what we have now is we're done with all of the NFL and everything else. And now I think what we're going to get to is we're going to get with Phillip here, and we're going to talk about the Cleveland Monsters. Phillip is an assistant. What are you? An assistant?
Locker room attendant.
Locker room attendant with the Monsters.
So I pretty much do whatever the equipment guy needs me to do, the medical guy needs me to do, whatever the players need me to do.
Okay.
I'm pretty much all over the place down there. So
okay.
It's a fun job to have, though. That's for sure.
Phillip's grandfather, Phil Simon the First, was affiliated with Cleveland hockey teams for how long?
60 plus years.
60 plus years.
He started doing it when he was 15. He kind of like snuck into the rink, and then the players were like, "Here, come help us."
And he was there all the way until 2016.
Yep. Correct.
And when the Monsters won the Calder Cup, and if you saw any during the playoff run, any of the fatheads and any of the signs that said "Win it for Phil," that was Philip's grandpa, and he was a great man. I got to know him a little bit because Philip played baseball for Wycliffe, and so I got to sit with his grandparents sometimes at games, and I got to know him, and he was just a great human being. And Philip has taken on many characteristics of his grandfather and will do a great job with the Monsters. And I'm honored that he's here to discuss the Monsters with us tonight. So I'll let him give his report.
Oh, I just want to say thank you very much for having me. I always enjoy coming over and talking to you about sports and anything in particular. So it was the first meeting between the Laval Rockets, who are the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens. And so first meeting between both teams all year. They're both in the North Division, so we'll be seeing a lot of them. North Division is a very physical type division. I'd sort of compare it to the Western Conference, where you have those big-bodied teams such as the San Jose Sharks who like to ground and pound you. So it was a very physical first game. Monsters' defense, I don't think, was really ready for what the Rockets had for them. Rockets jumped ahead early, scoring 2 minutes and 41 seconds into the first, and they ended up capping off the first period with 3 goals. So did
were the Monsters a little shocked?
I think so.
By how physical they played?
I think they were. Yeah, I was over on the Laval side. They had a lot of big boys over there, so I think they were also ready to come in and dim the crowd. And being a Friday night game, there's a good crowd there. So the only scoring that happened for the Monsters during the game, because they lost 5-1, was Sonny Milano's late second period goal. I think he scored.
Sonny Milano's back with the Monsters.
Sonny Milano is back with the Monsters. So I think I think they just want him to play. He really wasn't playing a lot up in Columbus, so they wanted to send him down, get him some playing time down here where he can hopefully be on the first or second line with them. So it's good to see him back. He really puts a dynamic into the Monsters that's really good to see with the speed and the skill that he has. So Laval scored 2 more in the third period to finally put it away 5-1. Player that really stood out to me was Justin Wade, who is 6'2", 225, rookie at Notre Dame. He's not the flashiest of defensemen that you'll find. He's not a guy that goes up, scores, a lot of assists. He's more sit-back, defensive defenseman. But he really likes to hit. And I was reading the scouting report last weekend, and under it had, likes to hit. So he's a big boy. You can really tell he's really big. So it's really good to see him getting in there and playing 2 games this weekend, which we really needed that physical element in the game this week.
Is that kind of the kind of thing with him? That he likes to hit, and he's big. Will that get him to Columbus sooner, you think? I mean, have they had trouble on defense this year?
No, their defensemen. Their defense core is one of the best in the league. Yeah, so you have Seth Jones, Zach Werenski. Hopefully Ryan Murray up there can step up his game, considering he was the top 5 pick a couple years ago. So
I was wrong on that one.
Yeah, they're solid up there. So it's good to see their defensive core, considering a lot of them have come through Cleveland. And
so he's really going to have to work.
He's really going to have to work
to get there.
Yep. Because a lot of their defensemen up there are more 2A offensive defensemen, not really sit-back defensive defensemen. So it's going to be hard. But
he's a defensive defenseman.
Yeah, he's a defensive defenseman. He didn't score a lot of goals or points when he was in college. He had like 125 appearances and only scored like a handful of points. So he's not that flashy guy. Saturday night, the Monsters came back fighting well, won 4-2. They put together the type of game that fits them well. It's high speed, high tempo. They have a lot of skilled guys out there, and if you just want to get them going, get them in a groove, and they showed Saturday night that they were able to do it. Eric Robinson, who's a rookie coming out of Princeton, continues to impress, scoring 2 more goals and his 4th multiple point game of the season. So he's really proven that he's stepping up into the pro game, and he's doing well. He's now tied for second in scoring and tied for first in goals. That's also really good to see. Calvin Turkoff scored his first goal of the year, giving the Monsters a 2-1 lead going into the third period. So at this point, it's a very close game. I was getting kind of nervous. I'm like, hopefully they can pull this one out. Laval tied things up early in the third, so tied it up 2-2. but Alex Broadhurst scored seconds later on the power play to put them back ahead. Alex Broadhurst has been with the Monsters many years now. It's really good to see him. He was on the team in 2016 when they won the Calder Cup. He's really going up the rankings and the franchise rankings and goals and points and everything.
So he's a guy that's probably like he's at his
peak. I think he deserves to have a shot in the NHL, but it's tough to see that. But he's really good, really hardworking, good veteran on the team for these younger guys like Eric Robinson you can look up to.
And there's really a place for guys like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a good mix between old guys and younger guys in the Monster squad this year. Compared to last year, it was majority younger guys, so that's why they were last in the league, second to last in the league. So it's like seeing it this year, they've put it all together, and they're starting to have a good, well-rounded game.
So it's similar to like AAA in baseball.
Yes.
Where you have those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Like Mike Napoli, who have been on Columbus this year if he hadn't got hurt. You have those guys in the AHL, similar, or the guy, the broadcaster on NBC. What's his name? Doc Emmerich.
Okay, yep.
He always says the American League.
Yes,
the American
Hockey League.
Yep. I love that guy. He's so good.
Yep.
I just love how he does a game. So. But okay, continue.
Yep. They ended up winning 4-2 because of goals from Alex Broadhurst, Calvin Turcoff, and Eric Robinson having 2. They were without their best scoring, who is Zach Dalfey. I believe he has 19 points so far this season. He's up there in the league, leading in scoring. So he went out.
That's more than one per game.
Oh yeah, he's doing good. He was just named by ESPN best player in the world for the week. From the performance he had this past weekend. I believe he had a hat trick and then 2 more goals the night after that. So he had 5 goals on the weekend, I think. I'm not positive about that. But I guess he was sick. I saw him in the trainer's room before the game Saturday. He had an IV in his arm. So I was like, something's not happening.
An IV's not good.
No. And then he went out for warm-ups and then came in early and I think he was sick. So they're still able to do it without him. So that's always good to see.
That's not a good thing. You got to clean that kind of stuff up. Like if a guy needs an IV and he gets sick.
What?
Like if he throws up.
No, that's not me.
Okay,
that's not me.
That's good. Wow, that's good because that's boy.
No.
I don't know I can handle that.
No, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to.
It's one thing when you got to clean your kids up.
Oh yeah.
But if you got to clean somebody else's up, that's just gross.
Not my type of thing. I've touched bloody towels and sweaty towels. But
that's enough.
Yeah, that's enough for me. So.
I know when I covered the Rockers, and you would go in their locker room, pretty close after the game ended, and the dirty towels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was just gross.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially with the hockey gear, it's also.
Oh yeah, I bet it's
That's why we wear gloves every once in a while.
Oh okay, yeah. So. I noticed the last game or the game that I went to, when your grandpa was still working, I noticed he had gloves on.
Yeah, he does.
And
because it's really easy to get sick with everything.
Yeah, and he had to be careful.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, yeah. But so is that the entire report?
Yep. And they head off to Hershey this weekend for a Friday and Saturday game. So it's a rematch of the 2016 Calder Cup Finals.
Ah, okay.
So it's always good going out there and seeing those guys. I remember years ago there always used to be 5-6 ex-Monsters on the Hershey team.
Okay.
So it was always good seeing those guys come back into town and everything like that.
Excuse me. Hershey is a really old franchise.
Oh, it is. I think they're up there with the Cleveland Barons for winning the most Calder Cups in AHL history. So it's always a good matchup when Cleveland and Hershey.
They were around back in
the
40s and 50s.
Yes, they were.
Wow.
They were the Hershey Bears too. So they've kept the name.
Changed their name.
I don't believe so.
That logo.
I love the logo. I love their jerseys.
How about
chocolate?
Speaking of logos, how about that the Carolina Hurricanes are a few games this year are wearing the
black
old
jerseys?
Hartford.
The
Hartford. They're wearing the Whaler.
I like that. I like how I like them bringing it back. I do. Like
when I saw that, I was like, wow.
Yep.
I never really paid much attention to that franchise because I don't like teams that move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool that they're actually acknowledging them.
Yeah. It's really cool.
I mean, that's one of the best. That's one of the best logos in sports.
Oh, it is. I totally agree.
The Hartford Whaler logo.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that and then the old Winnipeg Jets logo.
Yes.
was a really good one.
I like a lot of the alternate
I think the New Jersey Devils logo is a good one too.
Yes.
I heard they're going back to the green and red sometimes this year.
Christmas colors?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And I'll have to break out my New Jersey Devils coat.
There we go. That's perfect. That's perfect.
It's funny is that, before the Blue Jackets came in to the hockey league, I was a Devils fan,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the first pro hockey game I ever went to, and but it was funny is you can't just become a fan of a team.
No.
I think it has to happen.
Yeah.
And I know when I would, I wanted to be a Blue Jackets fan when they came in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I'd watch them when they played the Devils, and I'd be back and forth.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, they scored, but I want the Devils to win, you know. And but I remember it was Christmas Eve. It had to be like 2013 or 14, and I'm watching the game, and the Devils. I don't know who it was in the Devils, but he knocked Rick Nash into the boards and knocked him out of the game.
Oh,
I remember how bad I was.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh my God, what a dirty jerk he is.
The same way.
Why did it? And it hit me. I was like, I'm not a Devils fan anymore.
I'm a Jackets fan.
I'm a Blue Jackets fan.
Yeah.
Now.
Oh yeah.
And it's absolutely true. I don't ever look at the Devils in the standings anymore or anything. It's I became a Blue Jackets fan, and I didn't just become one because I'm going to be a fan because they're good.
Yeah.
It just happened.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I was the same way. Like when the Cleveland Barons switched from being the San Jose Sharks AHL team to the Colorado Avalanche, I'm like, okay. I keep telling my dad, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay a Sharks fan. Years go by, I'm like, okay, start worrying less about the Sharks, more worrying about Colorado because I know a lot of the guys up there now. And the same way with the Blue Jackets and the Avalanche this year, or a couple years ago. I mean, it was easier for me this time because both Ohio teams. So I'm like, okay, I can root for them a lot easier now than I did from the switch from Colorado to the Sharks.
But I actually really and I know how I am as a fan. A lot of people think that I don't like the Browns, but I like the Browns.
Yeah.
I get mad when the Browns lose. People don't know that. I can use this example when Tommy was probably, he had to be maybe 2. I don't even know if he was 2 yet. And people thought at that point that I didn't really like the Browns, because I'd criticize. I would just be critical. If you're not good, you should be criticized, So I remember the Jacksonville game when the referees screwed the game up and people were throwing bottles.
Oh,
and the call was horrible.
Yeah.
And I remember I was so angry. I ended up standing on my coffee table in the living room.
Oh, wow.
I was so mad.
Wow.
I was just so angry.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, you can't not be a fan. If you're a fan, you're a fan.
Oh, yeah.
And you end up, that's just how it is.
Yep.
And I'm glad I'm a Blue Jackets fan because, and I feel like the Blue Jackets, they suffered a lot. They were bad.
Oh, yeah.
They were a horrible franchise. And now they're a good franchise.
Yeah,
they're one of the better franchises in the NHL. They have to win a Stanley Cup.
Oh yeah.
Then they'll be recognized.
It's going to be tough with their division. They've lost in the
playoffs. One of the
hardest
divisions in sports.
It is. They've lost to the past 2 years. They've lost to the eventual Stanley Cup winner in the past 2 years.
The last 2 times. Yeah.
The
Pittsburgh
Penguins and the Capitals.
Yeah. So
and both coming out of that division, nevertheless.
Yeah.
So
that division. You think about it.
It's a tough one.
I remember maybe you and I had this conversation. It might be the toughest division in sports.
I think so. I think it. Yeah. You have 2 superstars in that league, in Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby.
Okay,
so
people want to say, the American League East. No, I don't think so because you got 2 teams.
Yeah.
How many teams are really good in the?
A lot.
Yes,
a lot.
The Penguins and the Capitals have won the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
The last 2 years. Then you got the Blue Jackets.
Devils are picking up.
They're good again.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you got more than 2 teams.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's. There are other teams other divisions in sports that were good, but they've fallen off.
Mm-hmm.
I think currently in sports, it's the best division.
I think so too.
I mean, because I don't think there's a power division in the NFL anymore. Maybe you can't even really say the AFC West because the Raiders are horrible.
Yeah.
Okay. And you got the Chiefs and the Chargers, and the Broncos are not that good. So you only have, maybe the NFC South.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can even say that that's as tough a division as
you have multiple teams that could go top 3 in that division and get out of there and go into the playoffs.
So it's a really tough, a tough division. But not the Monsters division, are there a lot of good teams in the division too?
It's kind of tough for me to.
I mean, I know in minor league, it's just like in minor league baseball, it changes a lot because different guys every year.
Mm-hmm.
But is it a tough? Does it seem like it's a tough division?
There's a couple of teams that could be good. Rochester right now is kind of running away with it, considering Buffalo has been so bad the past couple of years. They've got a lot of good players throughout the draft, and now they're developing in Buffalo. They've sort of taken the mindset of the old Red Wings, how they used to develop the guys down in Grand Rapids and then slowly bring them up. And you saw them 20-something years of consistently making the playoffs or something like that. And see, I like that blueprint of drafting a guy, letting him play a couple years in juniors, letting him play a couple years in the AHL and sort of get acclimated to the pro level, and then bring him up when he's ready and not just draft him, bring him up to the NHL. I mean, there's a couple of players that you can do that with, such as Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
He's a superstar. Austin Matthews, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you really need
right now that's not good.
But you really need to develop those players in the lower levels for them to succeed in the NHL.
Okay.
So, but the division, I really don't know. I'll tell you in a couple months when I've seen all the teams.
So you've seen them all.
Because there's a lot of new teams who I haven't seen.
Because that's a different thing in minor league baseball, or like minor league baseball too, is until you see them, you don't really know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can hear that they're good,
You
but
can look at the standings.
Yeah, but you're not sure until you see them play.
Yeah.
But I wonder is the AHL similar to like the Midwest League in baseball, where certain franchises have good teams every year?
Yes. If you look at a team such as the Griffins, Grand Rapids, they usually have a good team. The Marlies, Montreal's team, usually has a good team year in out. And they just won the Calder Cup this past year. So, and I know they have an 18-year-old defenseman on their team right now. They have another 19-year-old who are their top defensive prospects for their organization right now, doing stuff in the minors. So it's good to see that. And Hershey usually has a good team every year. Cleveland's, they always have a good attendance. They're usually top 3 in attendance.
And that's good.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what's your opinion on that? People always say, we should try to get an NHL team. I look at a lot of factors. I mean, it would be great to have an NHL team.
Yes. Because
the difference between the top tier minor league hockey and actual NHL hockey is huge. Yes. So what do you think? You've been around it since you moved here in 2010. Mm-hmm. So you've been around it.
Yep.
Now for 8 years. What is your opinion? Do you think Cleveland could support?
They have the arena to support the team in the Q. But with teams like Columbus and Pittsburgh and Buffalo and Detroit all being included, I don't think Cleveland's right in the middle of all of those. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they can really support another NHL team in here. They tried it once, didn't end so good for them. And so I think it's just good keeping them as an AHL team because, I mean, like I said, it's all those cities so close to Cleveland.
And what about ticket prices are quite a bit higher in the NHL than they are. I don't know how much is captains. I keep wanting to say how much is a Monsters ticket to sit in a good seat?
Pretty good night. $10, $20 maybe, somewhere around there.
$20.
$20, $30, yeah, somewhere around
30
there.
maybe at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You probably can't even get a low price seat for $30.
No, not in Columbus or Pittsburgh or good teams like that. They skyrocket.
I've looked a couple times to go to games. I've been I didn't think you're going to go.
No, they're expensive. They're expensive, that's for sure. As much as I'd like to see.
So that's what I think is why.
Yeah. I think in NHL, I'd love to see an NHL team in Cleveland, but I just don't think it's possible for them to support it.
Because a lot of different factors.
Exactly.
You're right. I never thought of that. How many teams are so close?
Yeah.
Detroit and Pittsburgh and Buffalo and Columbus now.
They're all within 2.5, 3 hours of each other. So.
I mean, because Buffalo, I've never seen a game in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen several games in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
But that was at the old place that had actual like wires with the light hanging down. Like I was like, wow, this looks like my basement.
Yeah.
Almost. This is really old. I think it was built during World War II.
I think so too. I think it was the War Memorial or something like that.
Yeah, and they just called it the Aud.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I think my dad played a basketball game there or something.
I think he said he did. I think he told me he did.
Like a state championship game or something like that.
But it was old. I just remember it being old, and there was a bridge like ran right by the arena.
Yep.
Like I mean, wow, you better watch it. You come out the door, you might hit your head on the bridge. It was like that close. Yep. It was very odd. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And people loved it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It was a place people really loved to go, and
they got a nice
new place now.
New place now, so it's really cool. Cool up there in Buffalo. Good things in Buffalo right now with Dahlin and Eichel and Middlestat all coming through. So I think in a couple of years, give them a little bit, they'll be a pretty good team.
They've had a rough.
Oh, they've been bad.
I mean,
it's been brutal.
People are always like, well, people don't go to games. Okay, they have low attendance or whatever. You know what? A team might have low attendance, but I always look at, because growing up in Cleveland with the bad Indians teams, I look at those 5,000 people that do show up every night, and that's who I'm happy for when a team does well.
Oh yeah, exactly.
When they finally break through and they're finally a good team.
Yeah.
Like the Houston Astros when they won the World Series last year. Not, the Cubs, they're a different story. People go to Cubs games just to say they went to a Cubs game. But the Astros, there were probably 2,000 or 3,000 people that have gone to Astros games their entire life. And when the Astros won the World Series, how did that feel to them?
I bet it felt
to those
great.
people who it meant everything.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Through the hard times and everything.
Yeah. Yep. And those are the people that, like in Buffalo when they become good.
Yeah.
I'll feel glad for them. I'll feel glad for the Browns fans that I know care, like my son.
Yeah.
Like Tommy.
Exactly.
Like, he takes it so hard when they lose. And it's just like, and no matter how much I tell him, like, they'll be good eventually. They'll be good eventually. Think of me. The Indians weren't good until I was 28 years old. And it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm still watching a loss every week.
Exactly.
But those are the fans that you feel good for when the team finally, like fans I knew. Like I thought of a guy that I worked with when I worked at Swagelock. I worked with a guy, his name was Jason, and he loved the Cavs. Like he just loved the Cavs so much. Like I had conversations with him about the Cavs that I didn't even know what the heck he was talking about because, he would break everything down. He just loved the team so much. But I would talk to him about it. And when they won that night, he was one of the first people I thought of because I know how much he loved that team.
That was great.
And I thought of my friend, a guy who covered the Cleveland Rockers with me, who just loved the Cavs. And he covered them, and he disappeared.
Really?
On Easter, the year before they won the championship.
Wow.
He left the game not feeling well, and no one ever heard from him again.
Really?
And he didn't have a lot of family, so we think he may have passed away. But when the Cavs won the championship, I remember thinking to myself, wow. Wherever he is, he is so happy tonight that the Cavs finally won. And that's what I think when you bring up Buffalo and you say that they're going to be good in a couple of years. And there's people like that in Buffalo.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
I always love going up to games like there because the fans are passionate. I mean, look at the Bills. The Bills usually are.
Yeah.
The Bills are bad, but they still pack the house.
What is it? The
stadium.
Bills, was it the Mafia or the
Bills Mafia?
Yes.
Yep.
Those people are dedicated.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Jumping off tables before the games.
Yep.
And
That's Buffalo's a crazy city, not gonna lie. I love going to hockey games up there.
But and those are the fans that and I remember, those people, and I guess you think about it, the Bills fans. I mean, wow, they suffer.
Oh, yes.
The team hasn't been good now. They made the playoffs last year, but they're bad again this year. And they hadn't made it for such a long span, the longest span in the NFL before that. And then you get to 4 Super Bowls.
I know, and you don't win one.
Yeah, the first one was close.
Yeah.
And then you just got blown out in the other ones.
Yep.
And I remember hearing a Bills fan say, after the 4th loss, I would rather not make the playoffs than go through getting to the Super Bowl.
Exactly, it's tough.
I mean, and I remember thinking to myself at that time, because being a Browns and a Buccaneers fan, I remember thinking to myself, what are you, nuts? How? Getting there is, oh my God, you got there at least. But then I think about it because of the Cavs in the finals for 4 straight years, and, and the Indians not being successful in the playoffs, now the last 2. I kind of can relate to those people and understand.
It drains you as a fan. It really does.
It does. I think of in 2016 when they lost in the World Series. And I remember the game ended, and I was just sitting watching TV. Maybe an hour later, I was just exhausted.
Oh yeah, I was too. Yep.
It
from the Rajay Davis home run.
Yeah,
so hyped
up and down.
Yeah,
exactly. and
that's what we love about sports.
Well, that's true.
That's what brings people back to watching.
I think the ups and downs. So I'm always going to root for a team. Not long term, but I'll always root for a team that has struggled. The organization has struggled. The fan base has been through a lot. And I'll root for the Tampa Bay Rays. And I don't root for the Tampa Bay Rays for the same reason I root for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, I really have nothing invested in the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah.
But again, they have low attendance. But I know that there's 3,000 fans that go there every day.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They go there every day. And they've seen what the franchise has been through. And when they're good, it's those people are going to be really happy.
Yes.
And I hope the franchise doesn't move. That would be horrible.
That would be, it's always bad.
Because that's what I always think. I think about those people. When the Expos moved to Washington, I remember thinking, well, people say, well, they weren't drawn very well. And yeah, but what about that whole group that did come every day?
Exactly.
And supported that team.
They took their baseball team away.
Who did? They're gone. Yep. They have nothing.
Just like how my mom says. She says when the Browns moved, she never watched a football game away again. They took her brownies away. She always says that when the Browns games come up.
And as we know, and anybody who knows me knows that, I'm critical of the Browns, and I'm not the biggest Browns fan, but I'll never forget when it happened and how bad it felt. Like, it just felt like somebody ripped your heart out. And I remember many things from those days. I just remember, the news, watching the news, and just like thinking this can't really even be happening. And I remember I called the radio station that night. I was into country music then. I like country music. And there was a call-in show. And there was a song by, I can't even remember the artist's name. But I remember it was the night that they announced that, it came out that they were moving, and everybody was the whole city was just sad.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I called the radio station and I dedicated the song, Even the Man in the Moon is Crying, because it just seemed appropriate.
Yeah.
That they took our team.
Exactly.
And this is, and I think a lot of people are like your mom. Once that happened, it was, you can't go back.
Yeah.
I just remember my dad always got up because he's similar to how I am. He stays up late, would stay up late at night on the weekends, and he would get up. The Browns would come out at 1:00. He would get up at 5-1. He would get out of bed at 5-1 and come down and watch the game. And the week after they announced they were moving,
he didn't
get out.
Yep. Devastation.
I remember yelling to him, "Aren't you going to get up? The Browns are coming on." And he didn't want to. He didn't care. Man, my dad was like the biggest Browns fan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, that's it. He didn't care anymore.
It's tough.
And so, but that's why I will always root for the underdog.
Yeah.
And the team that the fan base that has suffered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of people out there like that. I really do. Because I really honestly believe that when the Cavs won in 2016, the whole country was happy.
I think so too.
Golden State might not have been happy. But I think the rest of the NBA and the rest of the country, it was on the news in Europe.
It was crazy.
Okay? I mean, everybody was happy. I think people realized that what Cleveland fans had gone through.
Oh, yes.
And they were happy for Cleveland when we won.
My Clarion roommate, texted me. He's like, "So, is everything really going crazy down in Cleveland?" I'm like, "Yes." And I started sending him pictures of everything that was happening in Cleveland. He's like, "Wow, that's insane. So happy for you guys." And it's just something different, yeah.
But and you think about it though, people in Cleveland, how many arrests were there?
I don't know.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
It was such a low number.
I know.
You could count on one hand. It's unbelievable. There was one arrest at the parade. One. And I think there were two or 3 the night that they won. What got me was the Cleveland Police Department didn't even arrest the guys that took the fire truck for a joyride.
Yes. That was one of the things my roommate
they didn't even arrest
me about.
They got out of it. And that was it.
Yeah.
They knew what was happening. They didn't arrest him.
Yeah.
It was like amazing.
Broke the curse.
Yeah.
Everyone was going crazy.
And I just remember, I remember running around the house screaming.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe that we won. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just different because, obviously being a Buccaneers fan,
mm-hmm.
They had won the Super Bowl. Yep. The Devils, when I was a fan of the Devils, they had won the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
But it was so different from being in
your
the city
hometown.
Yep. It was so different.
Yep.
I mean, it was like, I'll admit it was hollow when the Buccaneers won.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like,
you really have no one else to celebrate.
Who do I celebrate?
Right.
Like, nobody.
Right.
Yep. Tommy was an infant.
Yep.
And everybody at work loved the Browns.
Exactly.
They didn't like the fact I wore my Buccaneers coat for a week and gloated.
Yeah.
But and the Devils, yeah. I mean, I really didn't know a lot of people that even liked hockey. Mm-hmm. So the Cavs, I mean, that was different. And I just can't imagine what it'll be like. I mean, the Cavs are on one level, but the Indians and Browns are on a completely different level.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And if one of those two teams wins, there may not be 1.3 million people downtown. I don't know how many there'll be.
Much more.
Yeah.
Especially if the Browns win
Even in cold weather.
Oh, yeah.
There might be double that.
Yeah.
Because
I wouldn't put it past the Cleveland fans.
I mean, I could see, there's a lot of fans in other cities of the teams. The Indians, when you watch Indians games when they're on the road, they always have a ton of fans.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you go to, like, California.
Yep.
It's amazing, like, when they're in Anaheim and when they're in Oakland, how many fans are in the stands. Cleveland teams have big followings.
They do.
They do. And the Browns backers are the biggest in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
So that's, you got to, if you don't root for the underdog, I just think to myself, what kind of person are you?
Yeah, exactly.
That you only root for the team.
I always root for the underdog.
So
never like that.
But I need to get some of those Buffalo players on my fantasy.
Yeah, you might have to. Casey Middlestaff. For him.
Although I don't listen to what you and your dad tell me about these guys, because I know sometimes you're tricking me, or you tell me a guy's not very good anymore, so I release him and you pick him up. Like the year your dad told me, oh, go. Yeah, you say it too though. Goalies don't really matter. Well, my philosophy is goalies matter the most, and last year I won the championship because of goalies. So
I think you can make an argument for both sides.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, because for years when I struggled and my teams weren't making the playoffs or very good, I didn't have very good offensive teams. Like I would lose the offensive categories every week, and I couldn't win in the playoffs either.
Yeah, your team is pretty scary. Not gonna lie.
I think it's pretty good now.
Well, you have Austin Matthews. No, you don't have Matthews.
Yeah,
or do you?
I have him in one of the two leagues, so maybe it is in. I know he's on the IR now.
You have Connor McDavid. I know that much.
Oh, my centers are like
John Tavares.
Yeah, Steven
Stamkos, because of me. That's why you have him.
Yeah, I mean,
it's scary.
So it's just, but that's I don't know. I think fantasy sports is great.
It is. I love it.
It is.
It's really made me pay attention to the NHL much more.
Well, and in our league, our hockey league that we have, in case people that are listening, I talked about fantasy sports a little bit last week. Phillip is in a fantasy hockey league with me, and we have our league is 12 teams, and we actually expanded this year. We added 2 new teams, but we have 3 divisions, and our division, it's just Division 1. We Division 1, 2, and 3. We gave them names. I guess that the division I'm in, I'm the outsider, because I guess that division would have to be the Goth division, because Phillip, his dad, and now his sister took over my son's team this year, and she's running it. And we are all in the same division. Phillip, his sister, his father, and myself, and our teams are pretty good.
Very, yeah.
It's a very tough division.
Yep.
And
it's going to be fun those last weeks when we're all playing.
Oh yeah, first 8 weeks we play out of the division. The last 13 weeks we play within the division, and I feel like we will just beat each other up.
Oh yeah.
For 13 weeks.
Yep.
I think we could potentially, through 8 weeks, all of us could easily have 6 wins through 8 weeks. But then none of us may have 12 when it's finished.
Yeah. It's all up in the air with this.
Because
division.
and that's what, it's competitive and it's fun. And I hate being if I'm in a fantasy league and I notice there's a lot of teams that aren't making any moves or aren't doing anything, that I don't really like that league.
Yeah.
I like leagues where people care and people pay attention, and I think that's what our league is. I think right now, out of the 12 teams in the fantasy league we have, I think 10 of the 12 teams are paying attention, and those other 2, they might lose their teams next year, because
they'll also show in the standings.
Well, the great part about it is the 2 new teams we got this year, the 2 expansion teams. The one person who I used to, he used to be an official scorer that that I know. He's a big hockey fan. He's an official scorer for baseball. He was so into it. He called me like every day the week running up to the draft.
Yeah.
And he called me like 15 minutes before the draft. And, and then he's in another hockey league with me, and he called me because he wanted advice then too. And what's the coincidence here with these 2 guys? I don't think it is a coincidence. The 2 guys that pay attention, that are new in the league,
are doing well.
They're expansion teams, but they are in first and second place in their division.
Yep, they're doing good.
And that, that's, if you pay attention, that's all you have to do in fantasy.
Exactly. Just set your lineups.
Yeah. Like my son's team that your sister took over. He was a good team.
He was a very good team, yep.
But he never set his lineups. Never set his lineups, and he was one-dimensional.
Yeah.
He had a lot of guys that played only one position.
Exactly. That's my struggle this year right now.
Is it really? I think my team is a little more like that. And I mean, I have guys that play multiple positions, but I think I fixed that since the draft, because when I pick up a player now, I always look for guys that play maybe two positions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want to pick a guy up who only plays one position. Well, or sometimes you'll find a guy that plays three.
You have
he's a center. I do. I have one right now. Yeah. Yeah. And I in the basketball fantasy league I'm in, I have a guy that plays three. You know, a shooting guard.
Those are the best.
Point guard and small forward. And I'm like, oh my God, this is great because I can play him
everywhere, anywhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, but I'll tell you what, Phillip, I hope you'll come back.
Oh, for sure. This is a blast. I enjoyed it.
If you want to come back on Mondays, if you're available,
I'll see what I can do.
Okay.
Talk about the monsters.
That would be great. And then we could talk about that. And I think some of the people that listen in on the podcast will be happy tonight because I did not talk politics tonight. I didn't have the political half hour, which some people will be happy about. But I know there's some people that listen that they'll be disappointed. But we'll talk politics tomorrow, and we'll talk about when we get to the political portion tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow's podcast is only a half hour, so we'll go 15 minutes of sports, and then we'll do 15 minutes of politics tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll talk about the Pasadena Firefighters Association president, Scott Austin. He discussed today President Trump's comments over the weekend about the firefighters, the fires in California. And Scott Austin said that President Trump's comments were demeaning and misinformed. And I'll go into that further. He just thought that he did not say anything mean about President Trump. What he said was he needs to be more informed about what's going on with the forest fires, and that the laws that have been passed in California are not the reason these forest fires are happening. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll talk about the 15 NRA-backed congressional candidates that lost re-election in the election last Tuesday, and how that might affect Congress and gun laws, or if anything will be changed, because it doesn't seem like they talk a lot, but they really never do anything. And the recounts have begun in Florida for the Senate and the governor's races, and I think there's like some odd position that's being recounted there too. Just some
you usually don't hear.
No, like a position I've never heard of.
Really?
It was really weird. I'll have to find that and mention what it is tomorrow. But it's like it didn't even sound like it was a elected office. Like for a state, it sounded like it would be like an elected office for like a club. The name, it was just a very odd. They don't have a Secretary of State.
Really?
In Florida anymore. That was dissolved. The woman who decided, or that was in charge when Bush v. Gore happened,
mm-hmm.
That was her last act.
Really?
The position was being dissolved after that.
Wow.
And so they don't have a Secretary of State. The position, I just heard it earlier, not long before we went on, and I was like, wow, that's a really weird elected office. It doesn't sound like it was odd. That's all I'll say. I'll find it and we can discuss it tomorrow. But or I'll discuss it tomorrow on the shortened half-hour version of the podcast. But I want to thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll have to do it again. We will have another guest this week. On Wednesday night, we're going to have Justin Latta, who used to write for the Sentinel. He writes for Indians Baseball Insider now. He's worked for the Lake County News Herald, and he is an expert in everything Cleveland Indians. So we're going to probably dedicate maybe a whole hour on Wednesday to Cleveland Indians talk. I know that's shocking for anyone who knows me, but that's coming up on Wednesday. But I hope you'll join us tomorrow. I think we're all out of time for tonight. And thanks for joining us on the Lake County Sentinel Podcast. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.